Well, good morning, good afternoon, whenever you're listening to it again. So, episode 12 we're at now.
Yep, that's the episode we're on.
And one of the topics we want to talk about is sales and negotiation. So the reason why we want to talk about this came back from feedback from some of the podcasts that we've done before, and we were talking about band qualification and follow-up questions and how to get sort of business over the line, and they wanted us to explore it a little bit more, and I know that you're an absolute pro, John, at sales and negotiation. You could
Made me blush.
Yeah, you could sell sand to the Arabs, definitely. So
is that PC when I like to say that? Say it now.
Or I'll blur it out or something like that. I'm not sure if I think you can. So yeah, definitely. So sales and negotiation. You want to tell us a little bit about it, and some of the tips and techniques that you've done in the past. Particularly, do you use BAN, or what sort of training that you've had in the past for sales negotiation?
To kind of give some background to it. So I'm kind of fortunate in a way, so I was always kind of given the gift of the gab. So I'm good at listening for what the person wants, and I think that gives you a lot of power and leverage in a negotiation. Mm-hmm. So to me, a negotiation is just trying to reach a settlement between two parties. It could be a warm negotiation in the sense of like both parties want to get a similar outcome. I want to sell them a website or an application. They want to have a website or an application. But it goes so much further than that. So I would say I was already pretty good at negotiating by the time I was like maybe 21, 22. And then I realised that there was a managerial course. So not long after I'd kind of like applied to become a head of design, I was looking for management courses just to try and like build out that skill set. And I seen this thing called TRC Media here in Glasgow. So it's funded by Channel 4. And as part of that, you have to basically write like a case about why you should be included in the cohort and part of the course. So I write up I think it was something like a 2 or a 3 pager about all the kind of effort and the self-development and stuff I'd done. So I managed to blag myself a seat. I was the only person in the room that was an employee, which was interesting. Everyone else was a CEO or an MD of a company, but they thought, based on the case of what I'd written, that I should be given the opportunity to be part of that. It was really interesting. So they gave us like training on public speaking, but one of the things they actually trained us as was negotiation. And I thought, this is really, really interesting as a topic, and I was just completely fascinated by it. So there's the GAP group are effectively consultants in this space, and they train people in terrorism hostage negotiation, sales negotiation, mergers and acquisitions, and it was fascinating. I mean, the setup of this was unbelievable, Mark. So there was like 12 of us in a room, and then basically what they done is they said, right, this is hot table negotiations and cold table. And at the point you're thinking, well, what's hot, what's cold, what does that mean? So let's say someone like me and you that know each other really well, we could have what's called a hot table negotiation. So it's not just you would pay this and I'll give you that. It could be well, what if I allowed you to access our staff, or what if you leveraged our hosting or our assets? So there's more to be negotiated there than just money and time. Mm-hmm. So that's a hot table negotiation because both of us have a vested interest in it. Mm-hmm. Cold table would be like a cold call, where it's like either, as Grant Cardone would put it, either I'm selling you or they're selling you and why they don't want to buy. So somebody's buying. So either they're the seller or you're the seller. And it depends on who wins that. And it is a bit kind of combative and the back and forth and being clever about it. But what was really interesting about the training was they actually done a real live scenario. And I thought, this is brilliant. It was like acting, basically. Mm-hmm. So they took half of us away and gave us a brief. And they took the other half away and gave them a different brief. We didn't know what each party had been given. And they said that, right, you're selling TV adverts and you have to effectively go in there and make sure that he buys the adverts. If they don't buy the adverts, you're going to lose your job. So they understand that, and you're thinking, right, wow, okay, this is interesting. The other party, just to kind of give the other context of it so it makes sense, they were told that you need to buy adverts for these slots, otherwise you lose your job, because we don't have any adverts to run on these slots, so I don't care what you pay, just get these adverts. This is your last chance. If you don't do this, you're going to lose your job. So when we're sitting negotiating, we're having this kind of conversation, and I'm saying to the guy, right, look, we're looking for £2 million for these advert slots. And he's using the techniques they've gave us, like the inhale of breath. Oh, 2 million? I don't think we could do 2 million. And I basically kind of went into me. I was kind of going, well, why not? and just kind of sat in the silence. And that comfort of sitting in silence is such a powerful tool in negotiation. So then he's having to come up with reasons about why he shouldn't pay 2 million. And I says, that's okay then, no problem. Will we just leave it at that then? And he's like, no, let's chat. So if you listen to it, what happened there is he then just weakened his position, because it's like he broke first. So we're sitting having this discussion, and then I kind of throw my lifeline and say, so what is it you're suggesting? So I'm at 2 million, and basically that's the proper cost for it. And the guy's like, I will do like a 100,000, and I was like, mate, that's just offensive, right? So I just kept going into almost like toying with it. So I was making little incremental baby steps. I'm probably jumping by like a couple of thousand per time, and he's jumping by like 50 grand, 60 grand, 20 grand, and so on. And I'm thinking he's coming closer and closer and closer. And I think we settled at around about like 1.6 million, right? But what was interesting, and I won't name names, but at the end of it, they actually showed us the video footage of the negotiations happening. And I was the only person to actually leave with a profit out of the 12 people that done it.
Oh, wow.
And what was interesting is he said, that's unfair. And the guy caught him in it, and he says, wait, why is it unfair? And he went, well, I was told I would lose my job. And then he says, John was told the same thing. And then he said something really interesting. He went, I bet he wasn't acting like it. And I says, well, I can actually fill that in. And the guy's like, yeah, go for it. It says, the reason why I kind of played it the way I played it was, if I lose my job, I can always get another job. But I've always been told that you don't sell something at a loss. If we're going to do the work, we need to make sure we cover the resource and the kind of time into it. And the guy was just like, I think he could have actually got you for the 2 million with how he was kind of pushing it. But he was quite embarrassed by that, because he's like the MD of a fairly sizable kind of company. But it was just really interesting to kind of see that. So I was like, that was my exposure to negotiation, but that's probably been one of the best things I've ever studied, and I would highly recommend anyone to put themselves forward for any form of negotiation. Yeah. What about yourself? You done anything?
I was going to say that as well, but also I think your background, you worked in a call centre as well for so long, and you must have had so much training even just doing the job in negotiation. Speaking to people every single day. Well,
I think that's the thing is, it's kind of like time in. So say like a game, they say like you're $10,000 to hone your craft. So you get used to basically resolving disputes. So somebody comes on, and I mean, I've had calls where people have basically said, that's not correct, I'm not accepting that. There's a £98 phone call on my bill, how can you possibly justify that? And then my job is to basically look at the evidence and say, it's a premium rate line, that's why it's like that. What premium rate line? And then you're saying, well, actually it turns out to be it was adult entertainment or something, and the person's like going ballistic because clearly their husband or a teenager or someone has actually rung up their phone bill, and my job's to kind of calm everything down and leave it at the end where it's like, is there anything else I can help you with, Mark? And they're kind of going, no, it's okay. So you do kind of get used to dealing with that kind of like conflict, and I'm actually conflict averse, and I think that's a strength in negotiation, because I don't really want to be combative. I want to try and reach a resolution, which is basically the core of negotiation when you think about it.
I think that's exactly, so jumping in to get my point would be, ultimately it's all about listening, ultimately like listening to, and if you talked about terrorism situation, but any movie that you watch and it's a terrorist situation and the negotiator comes in, they're always wanting to come in and listen to the person, right, okay, I'm negotiating, like, let's calm the situation down here, right, what is it we want to do here? Like, letting that person talk. It's never like, we're going to go and do this, and guess what, we're going to get you the helicopter, and we're going to get you all these things. And they never jump in with that sort of stuff. And it's the same way in a sales negotiation, a marketing negotiation. You need to listen to what the person wants first, and also you're going to have your own needs, your own price, your own solution that you actually have to kind of negotiate into it as well. So I think it's essentially a lot about communication, having good kind of communication skills. I do feel that a lot of people have fear with it. People don't like negotiation, in both sides, buyers and sellers, and it's just because they don't have the experience. Probably not so much you. You've got experience
I quite enjoy it,
and you'll use that to your advantage, and I know you would. But I know a lot of people don't, and it's funny that it's like I even had it yesterday, and I've given the guy like all my prices and stuff like that, because you know, like I sell in packages, and then he's came back and went like that. Okay, so how much is it going to be? How much is it going to be then? Can you send me a proposal and stuff like that? And I said, I've kind of just told you exactly what it is. Let's just kind of get into the chat just now, and actually like I'll tell you what it is. So it's a set number of hours, and for that set number of hours, you know, we can utilise what we're going to do, that bespoke marketing package within the set number of hours. Oh, but you can just get a proposal, and I was like, you know,
see, that's a funny comment though, because it's like you don't need a proposal. So people say to me, it's like, what's your selling tools? And I'm like, I could sell you a pen and paper, exactly. I could sell you without the pen and paper, I could sell you email, because it's more about what do you want to get. Mm-hmm. And you've said exactly that. There's really, if you can imagine a diagram, there's a timeline. Mm-hmm. So they're at one side, they're A, and you're at the other side, you're B. And there effectively is somewhere between those two dots is there's a settlement, there's like a walk away and what makes sense. So let's just say they're thinking, I'm going to spend anything between £0 and £1,000 to get a website, and you're thinking they'll spend anything from £4,000 to £20,000 depending on what they want. Mm-hmm. So that you're actually poles apart. So during the course of the discussion, you're going to like either push them beyond their line or you're going to come down a bit. And there's this really interesting thing about, will we meet in the middle? Mm-hmm. But if you know the tropes in negotiation, you can kind of like work your way around them. Yeah. So let's say, for example, you say to me, I want to do it for £1,000, and I'm saying, well, you know, it's actually £3,000. And you go, well, why don't we meet in the middle? And it's kind of like the obvious answer. And what a lot of people in that scenario will do is they'll say yes. But because you know that, what you should really do is sort of take incremental steps. So, you know, I would say, well, I could probably shave something from the price, but to be honest, with the costs and, you know, I don't make the £3,000. It actually would cost me probably like 2,000 somewhat pounds to build the site. So now they know that they can't go below 2,000 just because I threw that line in there. Obviously in a negotiation, that line might be £1,000, but you say 2,000 because you're negotiating right now. So then let's say you're between 2,000 and 3,000, so already we're settling at somewhere like 2.5. So I've then taken that step and they go, well, what if we did that then, like 2,000? I said, well, that's what I'm saying I'm into the deal for, so I wouldn't get a profit on that. So obviously I wouldn't take the work on unless I got some form of profit. I can take a bit less profit, but now what I'm doing is we're actually up at like £2,600 or £700. So by the time we settle, let's say we go to 2,800 and I'm at 3,000 still, I can then say, why don't we meet in the middle? And now it's £2,900. So there's like psychological ways of jumping the price into where it needs to be, and sort of almost like amateur negotiators are not used to doing that. They don't have those same controls because they're not thinking about psychologically people are inclined to want to meet in the middle and do this kind of stuff.
And so would you do that as a technique then, where you know that people are going to negotiate, so say that you want them at £1,000, you would maybe go in at £3,000 so that when they try to get you down on price, you then go to a nice easy £2,000, and that's what you would actually sell them.
Settle for.
You sell your projects at that cost anyway, but you've just kind of said £3,000 because you know that they're going to go, oh, like, you know, that's a little bit expensive for me. All right. Well,
I've definitely done it that way in the past, but to be honest with you, probably about 4 or 5 years ago, I stopped doing that because I thought the way I approach that now is like, let's say we have that conversation, right? So I say it's £3,000, just whatever it is we're selling. And they turn around and say, oh, that's expensive or whatever it is. They say that and say, look, would you give us a discount? I generally tell people I don't discount because there's a whole kind of reason behind that. Whereas if you start a relationship on a discount, every transaction you have with that client, there will be that same expectation, but where's my discount this time? So it's a perpetual thing. So you're actually better not to set up discounts. And the way I kind of get around that is, sorry, I probably miscommunicated what I've kind of explained there, in the sense of I've given you my best price because I've assumed that we wouldn't negotiate. I've just thought, like, I'll give you the very best price I can do, and I can show you how the price is broken down so you can see it. And what I would certainly be willing to do, Mark, is we can look at de-featuring it. So I can remove elements of the deal to make it more cost effective for you. So let's say, for example, your services, I've accounted for those 12 service pages. But if we only need to kind of make the parent service pages, so we talk a little bit about it, but we don't create the child pages underneath, I could probably pull away like a couple of £100 here and there. I could do this, I could do that. So I give them options, right? But if you think about it, who buys an Audi with a lawnmower engine, or who buys an Audi without the tyres? No one does. But if you don't take the tyres on your Audi, I could save you £2,000.
Yeah.
So I can save you as much as you want to save, within reason. But most people won't do that. But what you're doing there is you're kind of putting a check in place, in the sense of, I can't do this at cost and I can't take a loss on it. We both agree that whatever I pay for it plus some profit will be what we kind of agree on. Does that sound reasonable? And of course it does sound reasonable, because no business is going to do that, because you're not a charity. It just means that you're not the right fit. If you know it takes you £2,000 to build it, you can't do it at £1,000, not unless you want to kind of lose your business. And they'll understand that as well. You know, like if you've got, let's say, all senior resources in your team, then it'll cost a little bit more than if it was like a lot of uni graduates and things like that. So I think you can use these tools to your advantage, and psychologically they kind of pull themselves into where the deal should be.
I mean, have you had any experience of people that are quite stubborn, you know, in the negotiation, and what do? Do you just walk away from that?
I think you have to be prepared to walk away. And I think, like, see, when you go into negotiation yourself, if you know you're going to go into a conversation, you need to know what it is you want from that outcome. So being really attuned to what things cost you in your business is really good. So we've used that example there. If I know it cost me £2,000, there's no way that I'm going to go below, let's say, 2,300, 2,400. Because if I'm only making 300-400 on it, already that's quite lean. You know, there's not a lot of kind of profit in that. And I think most businesses, it'll be different for every sector, but I try to shoot for about 20 to 30% profit on the work that we do. Sometimes it doesn't work that way, and although you might start it at 30% profit, if you encounter an issue or a little kind of hiccup, or a staff member lets you down, or something happens, an unforeseen thing, like, oh, what about the matrix calculator, and you're going, sorry, what are we talking about now? I thought it was just a contact form. So things like that will happen, and that gives you the choice to, do you absorb that or take some of it? Like, look, realistically that should cost you £300 more. I'm happy to just give you a half price to keep you happy, and, you know, with that add-on. So you're absorbing some of it, but if you've no margin, how do you do that? Everything becomes combative, because you're going, well, that's extra, that's extra, that's extra, and the relationship just goes like a 45-degree angle or a vertical line straight into the floor, because they're going, well, he charges me for everything, but it's because you've not left any meat on the bones to trim here and there.
I mean, one of the things that we've done in the past, and I quite like it, is the bank qualification, when we talked about this previously. So it's more about kind of qualifying, but you can also use it sort of negotiation as well, as trying to find out what the budget is. If there's people that are, you know, approvers, there's, you know, within there, is that the person that you're going to deal with in the negotiation? Finding out their needs, and that's really about listening and asking lots and lots of questions around their needs. I think that's a really, really big thing, where you can start to kind of understand and take out what they need from that. Do you just do negotiation naturally, or is there any sort of processes or things that you've seen, or has even seen somebody use in the past that you know the listeners could?
I think there's definitely techniques to it. I would say that I'm almost like native with negotiation. It's like it's how I think by default, and not to the point where it's like, oh, I'm going to negotiate absolutely everyone I meet, but I quite enjoy the process of negotiation, which is interesting because I don't like bartering. So see, if you go on holiday, I actually cannot stand bartering. I'm just like, just give me a fair price. That annoys me. But in a negotiation, it's like, in my life, negotiation's kind of taken me quite far, in the sense of, there'll be things I'll look at from a completely different lens, because I'll look at it and say, this is not the only way of doing this deal. And in actual fact, let's say that we were doing a deal, right? So we're trying to work out where do we sit. I'm quite prepared to jump into, well, actually, let's push that to the side for a second. What about this? And let you come at it from a completely different angle, where it might be a case that the person says, look, what I'll do is I'll agree to do all your print work and X, Y, Z, and, you know, whatever it happens to be, and then we'll get some kind of discount, and, you know, it's that kind of way. So I've got all these options to play, and I think a lot of people exclude that, and they go, this is the only way to do this deal. I've had it in the past where like my sister's quite funny. She thinks it's like a kind of like a Dale boy thing, in the sense of it's absolutely shocking, like you'd be the kind of guy to go to a suit maker and the guy be giving you the suits for free. It's as if it's like, it's like a con artist, and you're thinking, no, that's not a con artist, that's just a negotiation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I've established that I want a suit, so I go and get the suit. And then I talk to the guy, and if he's going, what it is that you do? Oh, I do websites. And then he's thinking, I need to get updates and do X, Y, and Z. And you're like, well, look, I'd be quite happy to sort of go, we can contra one thing into the other, and we can work out a kind of deal and stuff. Because as long as there's a need there, I was going to buy a suit anyway. Mm-hmm. So it's not like I went in to sell the guy a website. But it's value exchange,
mm-hmm.
And it's that old barter economy, like in the sense of, I'll give you 2 sheeps for... a gallon of milk, or
mm-hmm.
give me grain and I'll give you coins or whatever. And like, people don't really see that. They're all just thinking money and time, and you're thinking there's so much more opportunities there.
And I absolutely think you got an excellent point there, is we negotiate every single day of our life, right? And I think people go, negotiation, it's this Dale boy, it's bartering, it's like, it's an evil thing. But actually, I negotiate every single day of my life. I've got 3 daughters that ask me for things continuously. Dad, can I have this? Dad, can I have this? Dad, can I go out? Dad, can I? And I have to negotiate, right? Okay, yes, we can do that, but I'm going to get my part from it as well. So you're only, I'm not going to just give you everything for free, because it's not right. It's obviously not going to teach the kid as well, that everything's for free. But again, you can utilise these same skills that you get, through life. And I actually think negotiation with kids is probably harder than in a business situation, because they don't just jump on the phone and start crying.
That's probably why I'm so attuned to it now. I've got 5 kids, so that's like my negotiation skills are going through the roof.
I know.
Otherwise you'd be broke.
It's amazing that, isn't it? Because it's like the first child syndrome, and you would lose it in the negotiation. Alright, just go there and forget it. And then by the time it's like, I'll get free, and by the time it's the third kid, you just know exactly how to play it, because you've learnt all the questions and you've learnt all the answers that they come back with. But yeah, and it's not just like kids and stuff like that, but you have negotiation. It
could be partners, it could be friends, it could be like, I want to go here for dinner, and it's kind of you don't, and it's like, so it's a negotiation. You say, I don't really fancy that as or like, what you'll find is, and I'm very attuned to this, and I think that's maybe something that's to do with it, is, have you ever met people where they're kind of like very me focused, in the sense of like, I don't really have any money for going out, and then you're like, I'll just pay, right? But then you get kind of wise to it, in the sense of like, they never buy around, they don't pay for their own meals. I'm always kind of treating that person, but you kind of like get tuned into it. So like, during college, I came into contact with a lot of people like that. Again, remain nameless, but protect their identities.
We'll get you.
We'll get you. But see, by the time I became like a kind of like an adult in the work environment, I was already sort of like in a bubble, in the sense of like, so as soon as somebody tries to, what I would count as manipulate, so they would kind of say like, poor me, X, Y, Z, in that kind of way, and it's like, it's natural for me to kind of want to say, right, that's a shame for Mark, I'll just pay for that. Yeah. But that's also a negotiation, so they're drawing you in using an emotion to then bring you into that scenario. So I think when you kind of think like that, it's like, I'm usually quite quick at thinking anyway, so when somebody throws a curveball, I don't just think, right, what have they said? I think, what's the agenda behind that? So what is it they're trying to achieve? And I might even just ask them, in the sense of, just saying it, like, so you're almost revealing, like, I can see quite transparently what you're trying to do, but rather than make it combative, I'll just say, right, I understand where you're coming from, but what I'm trying to understand is like the motivation, the reason behind it, sort of thing. So you clearly want this outcome, and then it's like, shit, he's kind of clocked that I'm trying to do X, Y, Z, and say, but look, that's fine. Just say that then. Like, so is that what it is you're looking for in an ideal scenario? And if I can't do it, Mark, I'll just walk away from it, like, in the sense of like, I'm not the partner for you to do X. And by doing that, it almost gives you more power in it, because you're kind of, I can see all the kind of like sneaky stuff, but I'm going to put it right out on the table, and then we'll talk about it.
And it's important,
back in control of it.
And it's an important point you make as well, because in negotiation, you can give little bits for free. And as you just said there, you'll pay for a person to go out for a drink or whatever, or a meal or a dinner or whatever. But if they keep on doing that, manipulating it, and it's the same situation, so in the same business situation, I've maybe given them a bit for free, or I've given them a bit of time and say, listen, it's fine, I'll do it. But they start using it a little bit more and a little bit more.
Like taking a little bit.
And you're like, right, I did give you that for that, but it does actually cost me money. I'm not going to give you every single time for free. So it's important when you do give that, then there has to be, right, we're going to do it this time, but like, see next time, it's your shout, right? You know, I'll get it, but next time it's your shout.
It's your turn for it.
Because I'm probably similar, you know, in the same thing with friends. I'm like, yeah, cool, I'll pay for it, I'll do whatever. But you do then start to see that they go, hey, wait a minute, they're keeping on doing it now, and you never see them start to put their hand back in their pocket.
It's almost like they're burning the bridge. I look at it as it's an unfair exchange. So if a negotiation's reaching a settlement, it's like an unfair settlement. Like, we decide to cut up the cake and I get 80% of the cake and you get 20%, and you're looking at yours and they're looking at theirs and they're going, wait, what's happening here? You know, there was a funny thing in the Joe Rogan podcast when they'd done that with chimps, and they were giving them like whatever it was, like pieces of cheese or something like that, and then one of them got given grapes and the other chimp went absolutely crazy and like attacked the keeper, like the person looking after them, because I don't know, there's something in their brain that's just like, that's unfair. And I think you need to look at negotiation as well and not have like a win-lose scenario. So if both of you walk away for that deal and one person feels that they got kind of duped or they didn't get their fair share, it doesn't make any sense. And I think you're better to kind of look at it and say, so just to summarise, what we've agreed is this and this and this and this. Are you happy with that basically represents a fair deal for you as well? And it gives them just that chance to think about it, because it's so dangerous if you're kind of thinking, oh yeah, okay, well that seems okay then, and then they leave and they're going, I'm not really happy about that, you know. I don't think that was good for us.
It's funny you said, back to the child analogy as well, doing that, cutting up the cake. I literally will have to like, it has to be the exact same, and see if they get a little bit more. They're like, they've got more than me. I even had it. It was I gave them money, and it was, something was like £9.99, and another one was £10. She get 1 pence more than me. I was like, what? Everything has to be exact same.
Exactly the same.
So, can I just wrapping up there? So, what is your business builder for today, John?
So, my business builder for negotiation would be know what you want. So, if you have a client meeting or you have one-to-ones or you have meetings with people, it's always good to have in the back of the mind, like, what is your objective here, right? So, what are you trying to do? So, me, it would be building retainers in my business, building up a kind of good client base with good quality businesses. Think about what you don't want. So it's like, look for the red flags. So I think if you go into your meetings, even just with a little bit of kind of thinking in the sense of like a reset, I don't want this and I want that, it helps you in the conversation steer the conversation to where it needs to go. So you're not just talking an hour about the weather, the football games, the whatever it is. Nothing wrong with building a relationship, you need to do that. But being aware of what you want in life is a good way of kind of approaching negotiation, and that way you're less likely to onboard clients that you don't actually want or need, and you'll look out for more of the kind of things that will help you progress you to your goal.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what my business builder is kind of touching on, I would use negotiation skills throughout your whole life. You know, as I said, we've kind of touched on family, you know, partners. You know, if you're wanting to learn to be better in business negotiation, then try and do these things in your life as well, you know, and start picking up new tips and techniques. You know, if it is negotiating with your kids and they're like saying like, I'm going to try this new technique, I'm actually going to maybe just listen a little bit more and then see what actually comes of it. But ultimately, you know, key point, you have to know where your walkaway point is. Where the price is too low, and don't be scared to walk away from the deal, even however big it is. You know, it has to be right for you or right for both parties, essentially. Okay.
That sounds brilliant. So we're going to wrap the podcast up there for today, guys. As always, please do like, share, follow, and importantly, comment. We want to hear what it is you guys are interested in, and make sure that the podcast focuses around this area. Me and Mark put this time aside to basically create content that we feel is of interest to a kind of business community, but there's nothing better than kind of building it around some of the questions and topics that you guys are suggesting. So if you do have any suggestions for it, please do let us know about that. in a negotiation there's always a walk away, but in this case we'd like you to walk towards. Come and join in, be part of it, so that we can kind of make the podcast better. I'll catch you next week, guys. A goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from him.
See you later.